Hello and welcome to today's webinar. The topic of discussion is our drawing service that we offer here at Javelin. So this is part of our Training Plus services package. A lot of these services that we've developed over the years are tailored towards kind of administrative roles or people that maybe have been using SOLIDWORKS out of the box for a while, and they want to either tailor things to their company or maybe just improve efficiency a little bit. So before I jump in, I'll start by introducing myself here. So this is me. I'm a training and process consultant at Javelin Technologies, one of your Canadian VARs. And I'm also a senior instructor and subject matter expert in a number of different areas, mainly revolving around CAD. What I do in my day-to-day is go around to clients like yourselves and optimize your design process and tools that you have. SOLIDWORKS is getting more and more integrated into every bit of a design cycle and the company itself, whether it's purchasing, quotations, design to manufacturing. So it's really important that those things work well together, that it's optimized and efficient. And typically that's what I go do is offer recommendations and advice to get you there. I have a number of certifications under my belt, one of those being the top for CAD, SOLIDWORKS Expert. Well, you can read the rest there. So this is me. Let's get back to our webinar here. On the agenda today, we'll discuss some of the major benefits of the drawing service. This is just one of the Training Plus services we offer. We do offer things like sheet metal as well to go in, I don't know, calculate your K factors, for example, or develop your gauge tables, eliminate user error by just programming some of these in so you don't have to type things in manually. Getting more accurate flat patterns. We have a lot of large assembly oriented services as well. But we'll be looking at the major benefits of the drawing service today. I'll take you through a kind of usage demonstration to just kind of show you how the tools can be leveraged. One key thing with our services that Javelin offers is it's not just out of the box training. It's not design services, us coming in and just doing the work for you, but it's really kind of a combination where we go in and help you develop the tailored content for your company. Something like, for example, the SOLIDWORKS drawing course does give you a lot of the tools, but it's how you apply it and in an efficient manner. So we'll take you through and show you some of the tools, and you can kind of draw as to how that's saving you time. I'll do a brief kind of workflow overview as to how I go about setting up and rolling out the drawing service for clients like yourselves. And then I'll go into some of the nitty-gritty stuff. The last bits will be a bit time dependent. So I'll touch on some of the specific tasks and workflows there. And then I'm going to go into some Q&A if we have time at the end. So some of the major benefits, I left this pretty high level. There's obviously some finer details that aren't necessarily captured here, but quickly applying your file properties. Now, the way I'll be showing you this is assuming that you don't have PDM. PDM does bring in some different aspects like data cards for your file properties and workflows and all that, those great tools. This is assuming you're not using that. So straight out of the box CAD. We'll show you how to apply file properties very quickly. We're going to show you a parametric title block. So at the end of the day, the goal is to not have anything entered manually, whether it's for traceability or reducing user error. All that stuff should be automatic, tied to the parts and assemblies. And well, at the end of the day, the drawing should be somewhat of an afterthought. You should just be going in and doing your detailing, tolerancing, which again, we can predefine notes, callouts, tolerancing, all making it just easier for me as a designer. We'll show you tailored outsourcing information. So if I have, say, internal sensitive information, maybe in my title block, or whether it's revisions that I don't necessarily want to pass on down to our outsourced machine shop, we can quickly tailor that. The big benefits are the two at the bottom here. So one is reducing potential user error. We are only human at the end of the day, and we do unfortunately make mistakes. So anything we can predefine, work into templates or anything of that nature, the stronger it will be. I could be more sure that I'm not going to be sending the machine shop incorrect tolerances on some of my part drawings, that I didn't make any spelling mistakes filling out who designed it. And one of the biggest efficiencies that everybody tries to get is well, speed to their design, right? So let me pull up SOLIDWORKS here, and I'll just open up a model. So this is maybe a small assembly that I have, and I went and modeled it to completion. Now I need to bring in all that metadata. So a lot of people, hopefully, go part by part. So you go up to your file properties here and fill in, say, your custom properties, whether that's something like a material or a description. This is all that metadata that gets carried along with the files. Very important factor to our designs. And what I like to use, instead of coming in here and typing things in manually, for example, description, typing something in, what I can do is use my custom property tab builder. Now I already have this set up. I'll just kind of give you a rundown. So I can come in here and I have nice drop-down menus. I can maybe select my customer, my project. Descriptions. I have the revision block here again because we're not using PDM, so I can have an independent revision control on my part. And you can see how much, you can start to see how much information this captures. And in a very nice kind of drop down menu way, radio buttons. So very kind of hands-free, if you will, off the keyboard at least. We have things like our procurement. So whether it's manufactured, I can then pick, say, my material vendors. So if this is just a raw chunk of steel that I'm getting, might want to get it from my metal supermarket, and we can designate a part number. I can bring out some of my manufacturing specs. So whether it's material, you'll notice my material, for example, isn't set yet. We can set it in our properties here. That'll change it for the part as well as for my custom properties. I also have a bunch of radio buttons that are looking at maybe, say, surface finishes. I have my raw material cut methods. So if I have, say, a bandsaw cut to get my stock, we can call that out, and then I have corresponding tolerances for the bandsaw. Notice these are all varied. So if I do, for example, let's say this is getting flame cut, I have different tolerances associated with flame cutting as opposed to, say, a bandsaw. Let's maybe call out our heat treat here. So this might get hardened, and I can give it a Rockwell hardness. Might get coated. So we can say this is going to get, let's say, anodized. Kind of just a general section there for anything not captured. This whole menu is totally customizable. So this is just kind of what I've done up for a demonstration here. You can see I have a list of employees and dates, so I don't have to get convention standardized throughout designers, and just a lot of other information that I can use for tracing. So by using this custom property menu, all your properties now get transferred over to your file properties page. You can see all those lists there, and I even have some configuration specific ones. So something like material might change between configurations or weight. So all that would be then on the configuration tab. So that's all well and good. But now I have to do that for, say, 20 parts in my assembly. Well, that becomes a little bit painful. So what I like to do is go to my top level and say I haven't done any of those custom properties yet. I could fill them all in bulk. So I like to use my quick select tools here. If I use the drop down, you can see I've programmed a few advanced select tools. One to maybe select all my part files. Notice how it's excluding something like the hardware because I don't want that grouped into my manufactured components. So I can now select all these components, and any common properties I can apply in bulk. So this is all going to be for the same customer. This is all going to be for the same project. My descriptions will vary, so I'll leave the asterisks there. That's just indicating that there's a change. Maybe these are all manufactured components. So we can call out our suppliers. And well, for simplicity's sake, let's just make this all plain carbon steel. And so I'll just quickly fill these in for everyone. Let's just paint broad strokes here. Okay, so my first issue that I'll bring to your attention is some of the automatically generated SOLIDWORKS properties. So what I'm referring to here is stuff like weight, volume, material. These are all automatically calculated by SOLIDWORKS. And if I hit apply, you'll notice those properties now get pushed to all those parts that I selected. You'll see the colors change for the materials. If I open one of these up, however, if I look at my custom properties, you'll notice that I have most of them, but unfortunately, some of these SOLIDWORKS automatically generated ones don't necessarily come up. It's looking like that is. Let me just check one more. Yeah. So there's a bit of an issue with things like the volume, mass, and materials being propagated out when you're doing the bulk apply. So in order to get that, ensure those properties are set, unfortunately, at this time, you'll have to open the part and reapply. So just hit reapply, and now I should have those material and volumes and specifics there. But using the advanced select tool, I can take this into all my different groupings. So we have, say, all our part level properties that I can bulk apply. I also would need to apply properties to my assemblies, whether that's sub-assemblies or my top level, so I can do that quickly. And I'm just going to start typing in gibberish here for time's sake. Notice I've taken out and kind of customized these things for assemblies. I don't probably need material, so we've taken things like that out. So that'll be applied to my downstream subassembly. We can do our top level here. Just apply a couple of these. Okay. And then I have my toolbox components. Those are a little bit unique, aren't they? I don't need things like designed by, checked by, customer specific information. All that is pretty general. Typically, I need a vendor, where to buy it, and maybe a material call out. So one advanced select tool that's kind of already in SOLIDWORKS by default is, well, this whole list, but the big one here is select toolbox items. It's gonna select all my hardware, and now I can apply custom properties for my toolbox specific ones. So you can notice this is quite condensed compared to the original. So I can maybe call out my material, maybe if there's a galvanized or electroplating, and maybe a short description. Get my vendor captured in here and apply those. Again, we will most likely see the same problem here where I don't have my material captured. So I can just hit apply again. That is a bit of an outstanding bug right now. Okay, so we've quickly applied tons and tons of metadata to all our parts. Now let's go ahead and make our drawing. So let's maybe start off with one of these components. You can see how all my templates are nicely grouped here. This is another thing we take care of in the service. So if I go to new, I have different tabs for, say, all my parts, assemblies, drawings. So we're not going around hunting for everything. But let's open this up, make a drawing. Okay, so you can see right away, all my drawing views come in right off the bat. I already have a revision table. You'll notice I also have some drawing properties that pertain to the drawing itself, not necessarily the model. So approval and drawn by status. Looking at my title block, you can see this is fully populated already. Again, this is one of the major goals here with your drawings is to not have to type this stuff in manually. So all that will be done. Let's maybe add some dimensions to this. So put in maybe some overall for this face. And maybe my company has a specific tolerance for kind of overall dimensions. What I can do is leverage these dimension styles. So maybe this bilateral tolerance is going to be for my exterior overall dimensions. we can quickly apply those. Maybe I have some fillets. I can see I have a fair bit of filleting at the back end here. I don't want to have to do more than one fillet, so typically what I'll do is leverage my typical callout, which will just add type to the end of my dimensions. Looking at this part, maybe I want to add some general notes. Now, notes often change, so I don't like adding them into my templates. I like the flexibility of kind of doing it on the fly as needed. So where I go with that is I use my design library. Here we have, you can see I've kind of tailored some different folders in here, whether it's for annotations or for drawing notes. So maybe I need this to be oil-free and cleaned. Maybe I need a note on here to deburr. You can see how we're adding this all to one nice little concise note bank. Maybe a typical call out for symmetry. I'll just quickly add some symmetrical or a center line here. Maybe I need my symbol for our center line. Instead of creating a note every time and dropping it in, we can just pull it from our design library. Now, this part, I would say this is going to be my critical face. This is kind of the sliding job of ice. And so maybe I need some GD&T and maybe some surface finishing. So those can be all predefined as well. It's just dragging it in from your library. Probably need a datum here. Drop that in. And we have some GD&T to go along with it. So that's in reference to A. We can point it at its face. Maybe I also need a flatness call out on there. Good. All that is very easily accessible, and there's no typing things in. There's no mistaking my dimension tolerancing. I know, for example, trying to remember my company's specific dowel hole tolerancing from press fit to clearance to slip fit. I had to look it up many a times, and this just takes all that out of it. If I need to add some revisions, I can just go to my revision table. Drag that down. Put in my markers. Give it a short description. I can also get my zones in here as well. Because I have things like automatic borders. Let's call up our zones. Using the default revision table helps a lot, whether it's zone control or just going to your file properties. So you should see the zone update there. So we can quickly find our areas based on kind of triangulating from our borders. It will also, of course, update my title block. So now that I've maybe tailored this drawing, let's pretend I'm done at this point with the detailing. Maybe I want to send it off to a customer. Now I have a lot of sensitive information here. I have, if I save this, things like my file locations or who saved it, maybe my internal manufacturing processes. Some of this stuff I may not want to send the customer. So what I've done is created several layers. You may be familiar with this from back in the day with something like AutoCAD. Works very much the same. And everything just gets automatically set. So if I pull up my layers here, I can, in my templates, maybe say, well, don't show internal information or print internal information for customers. And that could just be set by default. Um, but maybe I want to turn off some of my notes. I don't need my customers seeing that. I can quickly turn off all my notes. Maybe I have specific customer information that I want to hide or internal. And so we can hide all this, stop the printing of it very quickly. And it's all just naturally propagated. Things like our GD&T there is, I've particularly put it to extra dimensions. We have our tables that we can quickly hide. You can also do quick changes in your colors and line thicknesses if you need to. So that gives you a bit of flexibility as well. Now that we've got our part, we can do something like put it off to Task Manager, set those to print our DXFs and PDFs at the end of the day when I go home. Let's maybe flip back to our model here. Let's make a drawing of our assembly. And for every assembly, we typically need a bill of material. So we'll call that up. It's going to attach to the anchors that I've established in my templates. So I don't need to ever place any of my tables. They just naturally drop in. And we'll add some balloons while we're at it. Good, so we can maybe do some overall dimensions. We have our balloons. We could do an exploded view as well here. What I wanted to draw your attention to is the nice bill of material that I've created here. Notice one thing we've done is given some logic to our parts. So I have some parts that are purchased, some parts that are machined. If I have a purchase part, it's going to show me where to buy that purchase part and the vendor's part number. However, if it's a manufactured part, it's going to show me where to buy that raw material, and then it's going to show me the raw material callout. So I'm saving columns here. I can easily blow up a bill of material to twice the length of this, but don't try not to if I don't need to, right? What I've done here is just made a simple equation. So this is saying, for example, this is looking at those custom properties. If my source is not equal to manufactured, show me my part number. If not, please show my material. So it's some of this intelligence that can not only simplify the bill of materials and information, but make it a lot more efficient. So that's a bit of the kind of demonstration for your day-to-day usage, let's say. As for developing all this stuff, it's not quite as easy, unfortunately. So as a kind of high-level overview, these would be the steps you would need to take. So I always start by creating that custom property tab. That is super important here. That holds all your metadata that you'll use for your ERP or downstream operations. Once that's established and we've developed it for our weldment bodies, our solid body parts, our assemblies, toolbox items, all that great stuff, then I typically go in and I'll develop my design library. And that's just referring to making some simple folders at this point where I have my drawing notes, my drawing annotations that I can drop in, and drawing styles are like the tolerancing and typical callouts that I showed you there. Which you won't see in there, but it's just kind of where I keep them so they're all nice and concise. So once you've created those two items, I'll typically go into my SOLIDWORKS settings. This is where I do all my folder locations. Whenever you're setting up SOLIDWORKS initially, I always recommend that you create a kind of resource or administration folder. You can see I have a number of different things here, from material libraries to sheet metal gauge tables and bend tables to profiles, toolbox. Everything that I've tailored in SOLIDWORKS, I stick in one administration folder, specifically outside of the installation directory. And that way I ensure if I, say, uninstall SOLIDWORKS one day, that I don't lose all my hard work. So in your settings, you can just point your file locations to those folders. And then I develop my selection tools. Those allow me to quickly select things and bulk apply the custom properties. Then I go to create my first drawing template. The first one is always the most important. That's where you want to include everything. So I recommend typically starting with the smallest size sheet you'll ever use. So let's say an A size portrait. That's where I develop my title block information. I will do all my anchor points. I'll set my dimension styles, just about everything in that first one. I'll insert I use a dummy part just to know that things populate and are looking pretty in my title block. Then I'll go into creating all my custom table templates, whether that's weldments, weldment cutlass tables. I actually have a few of those because you could have simply structural members, you could have multi-body sheet metal, or you could have a combination of both. And typically those pull up different information. So I typically have about 3 weldment tables that I can pull from, depending on what I have in there. And then this is the all important point, the dead space in here. Once you're done that, you go into propagation, and propagation is essentially just quickly scaling things, whether it's your title blocks, fonts, for your sizes. That's again why I recommend starting at your smallest size and then scaling it up. It's oftentimes easier to scale up than to scale smaller. So at that critical point, you need to make sure everything's done. You have all the custom properties included that you want. You have all your notes and title block information aligned, formatted, set, because the propagation is just adding complexity. I'm adding, well, if you're in North America like me, you probably use metric and imperial. So I have 10, 13 different drawing templates, and they are all essentially isolated, but they stem from the original. So I'll start with typically an A-size portrait, develop that in its entirety, and then I'll go into scaling it up. I think at this point, I'll go into maybe just a few kind of touchy points that you might run into. So the way we develop that custom property tab is with this property tab builder. It's a separate application. It is in SOLIDWORKS or installed at the same time. And I'll just pull up my part one. You can see here, it looks identical to what we were selecting. There's a lot of intelligence built into these. So for example, going to the procurement part of this, we have our manufactured versus purchase modified. And then my vendor, you can see, goes into a detailed list depending on my previous selection for source. So I have all my manufactured suppliers and all my purchase suppliers. If I look at something like the cut callouts, same concept here where we have linked items. You can see I have an option for my different cutting methods, and then I have tolerancing applied for each of them. You can use a list or an Excel file. I originally thought an Excel file would be better, but if you're doing this particular kind of parent-child functionality here where one is related to the next, I've found that the Excel files don't really work well. So I've internalized it all into this program or application. So that's a bit of a helpful hint for you there. As for your title block, that's typically where you spend a lot of your time. It's what the customer and everybody else sees, so it should probably look nice, right? I generally start off by just making a sketch grid. So I'll typically start off by just drawing a huge kind of grid. We'll dimension it all. I'll spare you going through all that, but just make a big grid. And then I'll fit the notes in. All these properties are notes, right? So if I go to my annotations and I insert a note, these are all linked to either the drawing sheet itself or to the part or assembly file that's being displayed. So I link all my properties. I want this stuff to be parametric, right? And I can say current document if I'm looking at something like who drew it. That would be housed within the drawing file itself. And we can pull that up. You can make notes with a combination of static text and linked. So if I have something like, let's say part number, then we can link it. So model found here, and we can find our I'll just do project for now. I'm not sure what part number is. So we can have a combination. If you hover over top, it'll give you kind of the syntax of it. If you see PRP sheet, it's indicating that the property is being pulled from the part or assembly file. If I see something like PRP, it's actually being pulled from the drawing file. A little bit backwards in my mind, but hey. Once you're done your title block, this is the neat trick here. This title block typically needs to get scaled as your sheet size goes up. And one really easy way to do that is grab all your information and make it into a block. So this block, I can give it maybe an insertion point and a leader. Don't really care about the leader. Let's put the insertion point down there. And this block, I like to save it away. So you'll notice in my design library, I have a blocks folder where I have my title block, both for inch and metric, of course. And now what we could do is SOLIDWORKS needs to take a little bit of a break. When we go to our next size, so say I go from an A to a B size, I can just drag in this block. This will be kind of my standard A size. This is the one I'm using. It looks like a bunch of gibberish right now, but blocks can be easily scaled. So I can maybe do 1.5 scaling for my B size, and then I can just explode this. And we have our new title block. This should have all the notes and everything in it as well. Not sure where they went. So that's a helpful little hint there, just to make blocks out of your title block specifically for scaling in your propagation stage of workflow. And we have just a couple minutes left. Man, that went quick. So I think I'll open it for questions at this point. I have a question from can we add different orientations to the surface finish symbol? It will do that automatically, actually. So if I come in here, if I need a surface finish, let's grab one of those, and I just associate it to the face, it will just naturally drag on and orientate itself. You can, of course, adjust this stuff after the fact. I have another question. Can you apply properties to different configurations? Yes. It's a little bit more challenging with the bulk apply that I was showing you, but a lot of these properties can be set to configuration specific right off the hop. So if we do get more configurations, if these things are automatically calculated, then of course that will just naturally change for every configuration. One thing you can try to do to alleviate some manual input is try and bring it back to a SOLIDWORKS automatically generated property. So something like my comments, for example, look at my configuration name. So if I have, say, a screw with several different size configurations, as long as I rename the configurations, which I should be doing anyways, I get the appropriate comment or description or whatever that may be classified as. Simple question. How is the text linked between various areas? Revision history was updated and this updated the title block. Yeah, so that stuff is all connected, fortunately, in many different ways. So this drawing revision is essentially stemming from my custom property information here. So A. I could change it in my menu here. I've told it to be read only personally, but I could have my revision change there. I could change it manually in my custom properties, or I could change it in my revision table, which is my preference. So this will just continually cycle up as I add new revisions. And that's really the beauty of being parametric, is it can update several locations. I know everything's up to date. And say I maybe mistyped a property in my part file when I was bulk applying properties. What I can do is come into my title block here and let's change the description. Oh, you know what? I might not have that set up. You can also use your title block fields, which is kind of another, yeah, I didn't set that up. Let's just do that again. It's another direct link, so I could essentially come and change this property in my title block, and that would change it or push it back to the part level. So a lot of flexibility with that parametric metadata links. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to about time. If you're interested in Javelin's drawing service, please give us a call. The number and the website are at the bottom. You can find them all under our website under Trading Plus Services. And one big thing I'll note here is I've just done this up as kind of a demonstration piece, but the real plus of these services or bonus is that these things are tailored for you and your company's needs. This is not out of the box, so we really work with you in these services that we offer to customize it to your liking. All right, thank you, and have yourselves a good day.